Hello, and welcome to the second presentation in the series, Transition to Academia, from Clinician to Faculty, hosted by the American Council for Academic Physical Therapy's Student Leadership Development Committee. My name is Dr. Daniel Dale, and I'm a clinical assistant professor and assistant director of clinical education at Mercer University in Atlanta, Georgia. I will be presenting our second presentation entitled The Pillars, Preparing for a Career in Academia. Speakers for the entirety of the Transition to Academia series are members of the ACAPTE Student Leadership Development Committee and have no conflicts of interest to disclose. As a disclaimer, data from the Commission on Accreditation in Physical Therapy Education, or CAPTE, is used. CAPTE bears no responsibility for interpretations presented or conclusions reached based on analysis of this data. The thoughts expressed are the personal viewpoints of the speakers involved. Our learning objectives and session outline are as follows. Upon completion of this session, attendees will be able to describe the 3 pillars of academia, explain academic rank and tenure track, and outline areas of faculty development for future academic consideration. We will start our discussion today by exploring the 3 pillars of academia. I believe that many, myself included, before I started my career in academia, might be naive and believe that a career in academia revolves solely around teaching. However, there are 3 pillars that encompass an academic career, and these are teaching, service, and scholarship. A contract for an academician will generally have a percentage of work that is assigned to each of these 3 pillars based on the responsibilities of the faculty member. Let's explore each of the 3 pillars and what they may entail. Our first discussion will be on the pillar of teaching, which I believe is the one that everyone may be most familiar with. However, I'd like to note that far more goes into teaching other than just lecturing to a class of students, as our discussion here will hopefully help make clear. It's important to note that some of the following slides will explain definitions from CAPTE's PT standards and required elements, which can be found on the CAPTE website. This document defines the standards and required elements for accreditation as a physical therapist education program. If definitions are used in the discussion, the correct CAPTE standard will be listed at the top of the slide. For example, CAPTE Standard 4A and 4D are relevant for our discussion on teaching. CAPTE Standard 4A requires each core faculty member to have doctoral preparation, contemporary expertise in assigned teaching areas, and demonstrated effectiveness in teaching and student evaluation. CAPTE further defines contemporary expertise as expertise beyond that obtained in an entry-level physical therapy program that represents knowledge and skills reflective of current practice. Longevity in teaching or previous experience teaching a particular course or content area does not by itself necessarily constitute expertise. So as you consider a future career in academia, consider this definition of contemporary expertise and how you might demonstrate it in the areas of which you would be teaching. Another consideration about teaching and what it entails is to know that it contains much more than just your time in front of the class. Time spent in preparation of lecture materials, which may include reviewing and familiarizing yourself with your presentation or lab materials, revising materials that need to be updated or changed in light of recent literature, or changing components of a lab or lecture that didn't go as you planned are where a lot of time is spent in teaching. Consider the fact that you may actually spend 2 to 3 times more time preparing a lecture than actually delivering it, and plan accordingly. In future slides, we'll talk more about some of the other things that are involved in the teaching pillar. The second pillar we'll discuss is the pillar of service. Service expectations for faculty are outlined in CAPTE Standard 4C. Service can be completed in a variety of ways and often depends on your rank and time in academia. Service is usually considered to the department, program, the college or university as a whole, or external to the university, either to the profession or to the public. Service in the department might be as a committee member, such as on the admissions committee or clinical education committee. It can also be guest lecturing in another faculty member's class or serving as an advisor to a research project. College or university service might be serving as part of a committee, either volunteering, elected, or an appointed member. It also might be reviewing a peer's teaching and providing feedback, or being part of a search committee to hire new faculty. External service might be serving your state chapter, section, academy, or a national association such as APTA or ACAPTE. You might also serve nationally as an advisor to a board or committee related to your profession. It can also contain community service in some instances. The third and final pillar is that of scholarship. CAPTE Standard 4B helps to define what scholarship looks like. Faculty may have a well-defined, ongoing scholarly agenda according to CAPTE. We will further explain what this means on the next slide. CAPTE requires that scholarship must be a long-term plan for building lines of inquiry that will result in original contributions to the profession. It should include the principal topics of scholarly inquiry, specific goals that identify the types of scholarship, scholarly activities, and anticipated accomplishments with a timeline. The agenda may also include plans for relevant mentorship and collaboration with colleagues. For the CAPTE standards, a faculty member's line of research should include at least one of the following elements. One, the development or creation of new knowledge, or the critical analysis and review of knowledge within disciplines, or the creative synthesis of insights contained in different disciplines or fields of study, or the application of findings generated through the scholarship of integration or discovery to solve real problems in the profession, industry, government, and community, or the development of critically reflective knowledge about teaching and learning, or the identification and resolution of pressing social, civic, and ethical problems through the scholarship of engagement. As you think about a future career in academia, one should consider having an idea about a possible line of research related to the according criteria on this slide. Now let's shift gears and talk a little bit about academic rank. On this slide, you can see the general terms for academic rank. These may differ in name from university to university, but the basic progression is seen here. Someone who is hired on as a new full-time faculty member would generally start at the rank of assistant professor and hopefully be promoted upwards to associate professor and ultimately professor. Let's take a minute to define the different ranks. Professor is the highest ranked outside of those with special distinction at the university. Associate professor is usually a mid-level faculty member. Assistant professor is, as stated before, typically the entry point for a new full-time faculty member. A lecturer or instructor is someone who may teach full-time but has no research obligations. These individuals typically hold advanced graduate and professional degrees. An instructor may be someone who has completed residency, fellowship, or postdoctoral training but is not tenure track faculty. An adjunct faculty member is usually someone who is part-time, usually less than 50% of their time. An adjunct faculty may have primary employment elsewhere, either at maybe another school or in clinical practice. A guest speaker is someone who participates part-time in the program by delivering a small amount of lecture. They're typically paid by the lecturer and may not be on full contract with the university. A lab assistant is someone who participates by helping a primary faculty member run a lab course. This might be serving as an extra set of hands for student practice or participation, or assisting with grading and management of a course under a primary faculty member. As a good start in academia, it is important to get time in the classroom. For those that are new to teaching, finding somewhere where you can serve as a lab assistant, guest speaker, or adjunct faculty is a great way to get your foot in the door. Now let's discuss the difference between tenure track and non-tenure track for faculty. Starting with tenure track. Tenure track is an agreement between an individual and an academic institution. Achieving tenure is a recognition and awarding of merit for accomplishments across the three pillars of academia. To achieve tenure, there is an expectation of continued excellence and maintaining standards. Expectations of tenure track may vary from institution to institution. Generally, tenure track faculty have a higher scholarship load than non-tenured track and may have less of a teaching or service load. In comparison, a non-tenure track faculty generally has less academic freedom when compared to their tenure track counterpart. They generally have a lower percentage of scholarship in their contract and a higher percentage of teaching and service. Of note, some PT and PTA institutions only have non-tenure track as faculty. Now let's talk about your yearly evaluation as it pertains to the three pillars. Faculty are generally evaluated annually with their program director or chair and possibly the dean of the college. An annual review consists of an annual assessment of the previous year's work within the three pillars. It will also entail student evaluations of teaching, which come from student evaluations of the course at the end of the semester. Some universities also require a faculty peer evaluation of teaching depending on rank and experience. This is included as part of your annual review and helps to measure your performance or possible promotion or achievement of tenure. Finally, the discussion usually will shift to setting expectations for the upcoming year based on your progress towards goals during this calendar year. As we think about how faculty might be contracted for work, there are many possible options. These options allow individuals to fully pursue a job in academia at a single institution or continue to work clinically while teaching part-time. Some individuals may only participate as a guest lecturer, in which they will be paid per lecture or time spent, and generally may not sign a full-time contract with the university. Others might participate in an entire course for a semester as adjunct faculty, a teaching assistant, or a lab assistant. These individuals generally only have teaching requirements and don't necessarily have to participate in scholarship or service for the university. They also may or may not have administrative duties related to the class or program. Full-time faculty may participate on a 9-month or 12-month contract, or even another time frame depending on the program's timeline. Faculty on these contracts generally are held to full academic duties as explained in the 3 pillars. To finish our presentation today, let's discuss some things to consider related to the pillars of academia and how you, as someone who is interested in pursuing a career in academia, can start to plan now. First, let's discuss time management as a faculty member. If you're able to participate as a guest lecturer or instructor, now is a great time to practice some of those skills outlined on this slide. If creating a new lecture, recognize that it takes a lot of time and effort to make it good. You have to consider things like instructional design, accessibility of the presentation, proper citations and referencing, and your general method of delivery for the material, among many other things. This time frame to create a lecture or even modify a pre-existing one can take a significant amount of time. Consider setting a time frame for yourself prior to the lecture that allows you to create a lecture that you're proud of. Also, consider the time it takes needed to provide feedback to students, whether it's in class or after. Consider the time it may take for you to grade an assignment that you've created. Is it one that's mostly multiple choice, or is it essay or reflection based? Allow yourself time post-lecture also to adequately reflect on the lecture you just gave and make changes as needed. You likely won't remember these changes if you don't make note of them right away. Consider other things like student advisement or office hours when you are available to discuss concepts or themes from your lecture with your students. Finally, allow for the unexpected. Questions that might arise last minute revolving around your lecture, challenges to your thinking that you'll need to go back and review, or other unexpected happenings. If you're aspiring to a career in academia, consider ways to increase your visibility beyond just obtaining teaching hours. As you strive to demonstrate contemporary expertise in your area of interest, also consider your service and scholarship. Consider being involved in these items in your workplace, your local state chapter, or an APTA section or academy. There are plenty of opportunities to increase your service, which also helps to increase your network of colleagues and your connections for when you do decide to pursue a new faculty position. Also, consider obtaining an additional degree, perhaps a PhD or similar doctorate that will make you an invaluable member of a DPT program, but also recognize that other degrees such as an MBA or MPH will help demonstrate contemporary expertise that is needed in DPT programs. Also, consider ABPTS specialist certification to help demonstrate expertise and round out your resume. To help further guide you on your future journey in academia, we offer these questions of self-reflection. As you consider a career, it's helpful to know what content you would love to teach and where you can best demonstrate your expertise. Consider these questions as you think about content areas and topics that you think would fit your teaching style best. This may also help you think about where your interests in service and scholarship may lie. It's extremely beneficial to be able to tie your 3 pillars together, having a research agenda that supports both your service and your teaching. On the slide, you can see our self-reflection questions. When thinking about ways to develop your service, consider first how you can serve your profession. The APTA and its components have a multitude of ways for volunteers to get involved with little to no experience in leadership. Contact your local state chapter or your section and academy that you are a member of to see about volunteering to serve, or think about running for an elected position within the component. You also can serve your workplace or institution by taking up additional opportunities. Consider participating in interviews for potential workplace candidates or volunteering to take on students as a clinical instructor. This is a great opportunity to begin working on your teaching skills on an individual basis with a student. Consider also participating in the APTA Credential Clinical Instructor Program or CCIP course. There are 2 levels to take, and both will help you become more comfortable with teaching and learning strategies for students. Finally, consider your service to society through advocacy at the state and federal levels. Participate in pro bono or volunteer clinics to help serve underserved populations. There are a myriad of ways to be involved, and this will all help you round out your service profile while also serving your community. Finally, to expand on the importance of serving as a clinical instructor, being a CI has so many advantages. Serving as a CI allows you to demonstrate the ability to manage your normal job duties along with managing a student. It shows a commitment to service because you are serving the student and the institution, while also showing your commitment to teaching and learning. It will build your communication skills needed for teaching. It also will help you manage student situations that you may encounter as a member of the faculty, such as working on establishing proper boundaries, as well as managing an exceptional student who is either over or underperforming based on expectations. A clinical instructor who is a high-performing CI consistently for a university is seen as a valuable asset, and this can be a foot in the door for you if applying for a position on faculty. The university's Director of Clinical Education, or DCE, may be more apt to put in a good word or letter of recommendation for you if you consistently provide outstanding opportunities for their students. So in closing, you've now learned a little bit about the 3 pillars of academia: teaching, service, and scholarship. We've discussed academic rank and the difference between tenure and non-tenure tracks. Finally, we've left you with some ideas about how to develop your experience in the 3 pillars now as a clinician to help prepare your future career plans. We hope that this webinar has been helpful. Please make sure you check out the 3rd and final webinar in our series entitled First Steps to Faculty. Also be sure to check out the first webinar if you haven't already, which explains CAPTE standards and faculty requirements in greater depth. Finally, make sure you check out the great resources found on this slide to help you provide you with more information and guidance. Good luck on your journey in academia, and thank you for your time.